Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Creative Insider Podcast. I'm sorry for my voice, but I'm a little sick, and I wasn't when we recorded this episode you're about to watch. In this episode, we had the pleasure to have a conversation with Mauro Porcini. He is Chief Design Officer of Pepsico, and he is also the Senior Vice President. He's also the first Chief Design Officer in the history of the company 3M. And we talk about his latest book called The Human Side of Innovation, The Power of People in Love with People. So we're going to discover more about how design can influence innovation in a company that's more about food and beverage, and how one of the biggest corporations in the world innovate to stay up to date with the constantly evolving situation in the world. I think it's a great privilege to have the possibility to have a conversation with Mauro for the second time. He was on round 1, episode number 80. If you haven't watched that, you can go back and watch that one first. And I want to thank you for watching the podcast. And if you like what we do, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, press the like button, and share with your friends and others that might like it. Thank you very much, and enjoy the conversation with Mauro Porcini. Hello, Mauro. Welcome back to the Creative Insider Podcast. So excited to see you again.
It's such a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you.
Thank you for taking your time. Unfortunately, I was in New York a month ago, but we didn't manage to meet live because I guess you were traveling. I think you were in London, then you were in Boston. You've been touring around a lot also because of your book. The English version is finally out, right?
Yeah, I've been touring because finally after COVID we can meet in person, and meeting in person with all the teams is such a precious gift, so important. But yes, there is also the book. I'm trying to combine the two things. The book is so connected and related to this idea of meeting people and connecting with people. So everything works very well together, promoting the book, the ideas in the book, and meeting all the people that I need to meet. It's a perfect combination.
So the last time we talked, it was about the book that was in the Italian version. And now there is the English version, which is not exactly the same book. What did you need to change, and how was the process into expressing your thoughts and ideas in this a different language, probably different editing, because I think the English book is slightly shorter, right?
Yeah, look, different markets have different needs. Let's put it this way. The Italian book was pretty long for the standard of publishers also in Italy for those kind of books. But we decided to do it in that way anyway. The American market and the American publishers are more, focused on the length, and they have specific kind of parameters when they invest in a project like a book, for specific word counts. And so, long story short, that pushed me to do a very valuable exercise for myself in understanding what were the most relevant ideas of the Italian book, and somehow condense a book that was more than 500 pages in a book that is 200 by cutting certain things that eventually, I could sacrifice, but then writing new chapters to frame everything together in an impactful way. Obviously, going out first with the Italian version has been helping me so much in better understanding what the public was interested on. For instance, I realized that the topics of the book were relevant to everybody, not just to the design world. I had already this intuition before. That's why I didn't use the word design at all in the title, in the Italian version as well. And I was talking very broad terms about innovation and human centricity. But in the Italian book, at a certain point, I went deep in the world of design. And when I started to see the feedback from the Italian audience and the interest in any kind of field, from politicians to musicians to designers, business leaders, and any kind of background, I was like, wow, probably I can write about something that is bigger than design. I can talk to these people and they appreciate the content. I had a kind of credibility to talk to them, and that was great. And so the American book takes all of this in consideration. It's lighter on the world of design and is much more sorry.
Bless you.
Is lighter on the world of design and is much more focused on the world of leadership, innovation, and human centricity in general. This is me sneezing because I have dogs in front of me with hairs that fly in the sky everywhere.
Yeah, you dogs are really cute. I always think are very sweet to see on your Instagram page.
There is Bella here close to me.
And your new title is this, it's called The Human Side of Innovation and the Power of People and Love of People. I was thinking about this title. Isn't innovation intrinsically human? Because this is kind of what we do as humanity, is constantly improve what we have available and just make it better and better and do these circles of innovation constantly.
I wish. I wish it was like this. That's what they teach you at school. This is what you think makes perfect sense. And then you go in the world and you realize that there is a lot of new stuff that are not better than the previous stuff, that are not more relevant or more meaningful, that are there just because there is a business opportunity for a brand to have a position in a specific industry or a product category and extract profit out of that positioning, or simply we keep changing products and evolving products, not with the human being at the center of that kind of approach and process. So not to create something better for them, but to drive more profit. And so often the driver is the financial revenue, the return on investment, a variety of different business-related KPIs versus this almost naive, authentic idea and dream of creating real value for people. There are individuals out there that are like, wow, I work for a big company and this is an amazing platform to do good to the world, to drive certain things that make sense, or even to create products that people love, and without thinking in an ecosystem level, a system level. There are people out there that think in this way. There are many others instead that are thinking, okay, I need to grow this business from A to B. The product is one of the many levers. I don't need eventually to focus on the lever and create something extraordinary for people. I can eventually use other levers, pricing, distribution. I can build huge barriers to entry to protect my product, even if it's not extraordinary, even if it's average. So you're right. As a principle, innovation should be human-centered. Unfortunately, we lost that idea over time. It was like this at the beginning, at a prehistoric time when it was an act of love, creating something for yourself and for other people around you by modifying what was available in nature. And then when we started to invent the idea of work and then companies, and we organize ourselves in the society, inventing the idea of branding later on, we lost that pact of love. We lost that idea of love and we replaced it with the idea of profit. And that became the driver of the innovation machine.
Yeah, it's also back in the days was also an act of necessity, right? Because you really needed things that work, because it was more sometimes a matter of death or life. But and now we have more I don't know, we have a saturation of products in every possible field. So in innovation, also me as an architect, I work in the field of architecture. In my opinion, innovation requires more time actually thinking and designing something or planning it, and less than time executing, because once everything is kind of planned, you can execute it more flawlessly, I think. I don't know, is this, in your opinion, correct? And how do we afford it? Because, as you said, it's also very driven by the money. So nobody has kind of time to think too much.
Well, first of all, you mentioned the word needs, and then you refer to need in a way that is pretty conventional in the society we live in. When you say need, you immediately think about the functionality, you think about the bottom of the Maslow pyramid. So is the safety needs, the physiological needs. The bottom is all defined by the kind of hardcore functionalities about survival and things like this. The reality is that already back then, the prehistoric men and women were modifying what was available in nature, yes, to hunt, to prepare food, but also to decorate their bodies, to decorate their caves. They eventually, later on, they started to be architects as well. But even before that, they were just decorating what was available there. They were decorating to tell stories, but also to celebrate their gods, as an example. And so I just described different kind of needs. They're still needs through the Maslow pyramid, through the filter of the Maslow pyramid, moving from, the more functional kind of needs, moving in the middle to the needs connected to your sense of belonging and connecting with others, all the way to the needs of transcendence, something bigger than you. If you connect them all, this is human instinct. And some feel like, more necessary and more important, because if you don't fulfill those needs, you die, you don't survive. But others are important as well, because impact your mental healthness and a variety of different things that are really, really important in your life. So when you go after those needs, essentially, that's what I mean with investing in love for yourself, in love for the people around you. Now, for many years, this was not necessary, because you had companies and organizations, including those organizations and companies creating homes for people and apartments in every category and field. They could, through scale, drive products and solutions that were not ideal, but then they would protect them with barriers to entry. Again, a scale of production, scale of communication, scale of distribution, scale of investment in general, in different ways and areas. And you as a person out there, you have to buy what you could find. And there was this dynamic balance between competitors in the market. Today, in many categories, in many fields, instead, it's easier to enter and compete with these big organizations. So while in the past, for many years, we had so much focus on generating innovation that would drive profit, today, you need to go back to the idea of generating innovation towards the real needs of people, needs, wants, dreams of people in a meaningful way, in a relevant way. And that is a new driver of profit and business value. In the past, you didn't need it in many categories because of these barriers to entry. So the beauty for us creative today is that you can focus on creating value for people, but you need to really understand what is that value. And on this, we need to be honest with ourselves, because sometimes we don't create that value. So we need to be really focused on understanding their needs, their wants, creating the value. If we do it right, this is becoming a major competitive lever and advantage for the companies we work for. Something that was not the case eventually 20 years ago, 30 years ago. We live in a very different situation.
And you work you're the chief design officer of PepsiCo, and now I think vice president, which would be like one of the probably companies that could do exactly what you were saying, to put barriers to try to protect their market share. How do you shift mentality, and what is, if you can make some practical examples about how you guys like force yourself to innovate and actually go and, as you say in the title of your book, people that love people and find those needs and innovate?
Well, the beauty of this situation right now is that somehow the market and the world out there is sending all these companies clear signals that they need to innovate. They need to change things. The problem, though, is that it's not easy to change very quickly the culture of big organization, problem number one. The second one is that still this transition is not happening at the speed of light. So, you still have big brands with barriers to entry that somehow are very successful. So, but it's happening. It is happening. And so what I'm trying to say is that on one side, you have the world, society, market sending these signals to these businesses. On the other side, you need to have leaders within these organizations that understand what's going on, that understand what are the signals, and that somehow become the ambassadors of the different approach that change within these companies. And you need people at the top of the company, the CEO or top executives, that empower these ambassadors. And you need them in different levels of the organization, from the top all the way to the body of the company. People actually make things happen, they work on projects. And you don't need them everywhere at the beginning. At the beginning, what you need is a few protected and empowered from the top to build what they call the proof points, to create examples of how a different approach can generate value for the company. And then you start to work and grow from there. Now, when we talk about innovation applies to essentially anything. So sometimes it's innovation of products, but sometimes it's innovation in the way you build a brand. Sometimes it's innovation of service. So in the case of Pepsico, if you think about innovation of product, I can mention Gatorade GX, this ecosystem where you have wearable devices, the patches that you put on your skin, they monitor your sweating, your composition, the composition of the sweating, and send information to an app that then give you direction of what kind of concentrate of Gatorade you need on the base of your body, your performance, the physiology of your body. And then you have a smart bottle. When you drink, it measures the intake, measures what you're putting inside your body. And again, you have a full picture of what you need, what you're drinking, and a variety of different directions through the app on how you should plan your future refueling of all the functional ingredients that you need. Something similar is SodaStream Professional, these machines that let you customize your drinks, totally sustainable, mixing desire, so the tastes that you like, with functionality, ingredients like electrolytes, magnesium, vitamin B, and so on and so forth, so that you customize the drink for you. These are a couple of examples of trying to disrupt your own market, your own category with technology in this specific case. It goes all the way to the way we are supporting Pepsi in communication in completely different ways from the past. For instance, the role of licensing and the collaborations we were doing in the world of fashion, Pepsi D Square, Pepsi Puma, Pepsi Fila, or for other brands like Cheetos and Forever 21 and Nike and Air Jordan with Gatorade and a variety of others. So trying to create experiences relevant for people, meaningful for people, we reach them wherever they are in a variety of different ways, and we transform them in the best ambassadors of the brand. Instead of building content and top-down imposing this content to them, we are moving to a content that is generated by them about us when they get excited about an experience. It's moving from television and brands saying, look how cool I am, to reaching people when they go to a concert, when they go to a fashion show, when they walk in the street, when they go to a cinema, and they get excited about something that the brand is doing. They take their phone, they take a picture, a video, and they share it with the world. This is user-generated content. This is experience-driven innovation. And it's all about brand building in a different way. And in this world, the design world become really, really important, because it's not anymore about just traditional content in television or digital channels, but all of a sudden we start to talk about creating products, experiences, architecture, interior design, fashion, everything get together in building that ecosystem around the brand. Every touch point of the brand becomes potential user-generated content. We're moving from buying the right to talk to people to the need of earning the right to talk to people, and eventually, the most of the time, to be talked about by people amongst each other. And this is democratizing everything, because in the past, the more money you had, the more you could talk to people. Today, it's not about money anymore. Money is important, but if you have something interesting and you push it through your social media channel, you can go compete with companies that have billions of dollars of budget, even if you don't have that amount of money to build your brands.
Yeah, definitely. And also, nowadays also about like, as you said, is it among finding the right people, those ambassadors, also working with creatives, because this been also like a shift in the in the way brands work. For example, I don't know if you know, there is this very famous YouTuber Casey Neistat. He did this video for Nike that it has been very, very popular. One of the most viewed Nike commercials, where there is not even the logo of Nike, where he just gives them an experience, right? Like he creates this video. It's called, I think, Make It Count or something like that. The video, you can check it. Is it also finding, like, as you said, it's not anymore having the right to talk to people just because you pay for an ad, but finding the right personalities that also the experience you create, they can sort of communicate it in their own way to their own audiences and also have a connection with the brand.
Yeah, at the end of the day, first of all, I love the work of Casey. I had the possibility to meet him when he was living in New York and go to his studio. It's just
he's back. He's back in New York.
Yeah, I saw after a while in exile in California, I think he was. And it's even just his studio is so, I don't know the new one, but the old one, it was so inspiring. You could see it was a laboratory, completely a laboratory. And so essentially what these brands need to understand is, once again, and we go back to the idea of human centricity, what is relevant to people? What excites them? What will they react to? And so that's what in the world of communication you will call the message. But to craft the message, you need to understand your target audience inside out. And then at that point, the third ingredient is, what is the right platform? What in communication you call the right media. But the media could become a piece of packaging, a product, something that happened at Carrefour or Walmart or in a restaurant. That's all media in the idea of user-generated content. And then the fourth ingredient is the code. What kind of code you use, what kind of language, what words you use, how you choose words in a careful way to impact people in unexpected ways. And then the visual code, how you use images and videos and anything that is visual to convey the overall meaning of what you are creating. If you think in that way, once again, a piece of packaging can become content for a simple reason, because while in the past it was just a piece of packaging communicating something functional in a store, or eventually making the user in the store reminding them of what they saw in television, that was packaging in the past. Today, if you do something interesting, you do a limited edition packaging for your brand, or the packaging become the gate for the digital world through augmented reality, or a variety of other things. All of a sudden, once again, that packaging content, because you're going to take a video, you're going to take a picture, you're going to share and build stories for those brands. So it all starts with deeply understanding what these people want. And the case of Casey Neistat is a wonderful one, because with his intuition, he understood what kind of content was relevant to them. And then either him or Nike, and probably together, they understood how to connect that kind of experience with what Nike stands for. But it all started with a deep understanding of who they were talking to, because they knew, Casey knew, that the people he was talking to, first of all, were the same people that the same people that love his content is people that love Nike, same target audience, and they will react to similar kind of contents. Or eventually, imagine it's not the case of Casey and Nike, but there are other situations where eventually your target is not there yet, or your brand is not there yet. And then you partner with content creators that can help that brand borrowing their equity to go in that direction. But you need to do it in an authentic way. You need to understand timing to do it. You need to understand how much you're stretching. If you stretch too much, you lose credibility. It's not authentic. If you don't stretch enough, your message is not disruptive enough. And then is about also persistency and consistency. You may do it once. If you do it just once and you don't do it anymore, it's fake. People will get it. If you do it once, even if people are like, oh, it's not really your brand, why are you doing that? But then you do it again, and then you do it again, and again, and again, and again, and again. At a certain point, people will be like, well, yes, probably the brand was not like this in the past, but now they're thinking in this way. And by the way, it's feasible, unless it's a total change of direction and 180 degrees. But if it is slight changes of directions, they can still be part of the personality of the brand. At the end of the brand, at the end of the day, a brand is like a person. And think about yourself 20 years ago and yourself today. Are you exactly the same, or you are slightly different because life somehow, make you evolve into the person you are today? And probably in 20 years, you will be, again, slightly different than today. What I talk about today is different than what I was talking about when I was 30, when I was 20. There are some intrinsic values that have been with me forever, since I was a child, and, thanks to the education of my parents and my experiences back then. But then the behaviors, what I talk about, I think is important for me, change with the different stages of life. And why can't a brand do something similar over time, over so long? But you need the right leaders, brand leaders, designers, entrepreneurs to be able to steer the direction in an authentic way, in a real way.
And talking about things that change you, since the last time we talked, you are now a father, which for congratulations. And does this experience change you even furthermore in a sense of motivation to innovate in the right direction also, because now you have a first touch with the next generation that you kind of want to leave something better for the next that are coming?
Look, she's just 6 months old. So for now, there is not much change for one specific reason, because that change happened a few years ago when I decided I was going to have children. But I always knew that sooner or later I was. But a few years ago, I was like, okay, it's going to happen. And when you enter in the mindset, already there, everything you do, you're doing thinking, okay, this needs to somehow set an example for my children. Or when you work on something, you're thinking, okay, this is a legacy that I'm leaving to them. What I'm doing in this world this is the world we're leaving to them. So already there, I started to think in a way. It's been like this for years. When I wrote the Italian book was dedicated to somebody that will arrive. I wrote in Italian at the beginning. I didn't know, my daughter was not conceived yet, but I knew she was coming, and I wrote a book thinking of her. And so right now, she's 6 months. She's not interacting yet beyond, smiles and being happy when she sees us and everything. I am in this phase. What I know that is about to come, though, is that very soon I will have a thinking human being that will be able to express her thoughts in front of us. And that's, I can't wait that moment, because she will start, the first phase will be when she will start to ask questions. And God knows how many questions she was going to ask with the naivete typical of a child that will make me pause. It will make me think about something that I took for granted, because that's how our mind works. You learn something early on in your life, and then your brain take a shortcut. When you receive the same input again, the brain jump to the conclusion, because the brain needs to keep bandwidth for all other data that you're gonna learn over the course of your life. And so the kids don't have the shortcut yet, because they need to build the output step by step. And this is the beauty of being exposed to children, because they ask you questions that for you don't make any sense. For instance, why somebody in Italy say ciao, moving, shaking the hand, and this doesn't happen eventually in other parts of the world. Why somebody is sad in a specific moment. I mean, you take for granted the fact that in Italy we say ciao, we say hi in that way. You take for granted the fact that somebody could be sad in a specific moment. You see the person in the street, you just walk by, and then your child stops you, and he's like, Dad, Mom, why that person is sad? And you're like, yeah, why? And I was so blind. I was rushing my everyday life, and I didn't pause. So I can't wait for that phase where I will learn so much about myself, about the world, through the wonder of the eyes of this child. And then I can't wait for the phase immediately after, when she will have access to a series of things that happen out there in the world that I don't have access to. And she will come home and she will share them with me and with my wife. And we start to learn so much through her eyes, through what she's learning in the world. There are so many things that I cannot wait for, and I'm sure will change me completely over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It reminded me of, in Italy, we have this very famous poet, Giovanni Pascoli, who has this concept that we have to maintain this sort of childish curiosity all life long, so that we actually can notice these particularities and constantly learn from our environment. And I think the last few things that I noticed around Pepsico, I talk about the company you are involved in because you know more from the kitchen. You've been very active also on the last expo in Dubai. What were the most innovative project? And also, as you said, you have to understand with a global company different kind of people, because what is for me granted might be not granted for a person that is in another continent or in another country. So also, how do you do innovation on a global scale?
We call this approach glocal, being global in the way we strategize, but then being local in the way we try to execute. Or in other words, is globally strategic and locally relevant. And it's always the fine balance between the two dimensions. And it's very difficult. And that's why when I joined PepsiCo 10 years ago, I immediately pitched the idea of having design teams all around the world. I went through this in 3M, in my previous company, for 10 years. At the beginning, it was all centralized, actually in Italy, not even in the headquarters where I was hired. Very quickly, we had teams in the US by definition, because the company was based there. But then I started to work for China, for Taiwan, for Japan, for a variety of different countries in Asia, for instance. That's where we started, outside of Italy and the US. And Europe in general, and the US. And I remember the difficulty of designing out of the US and Europe for Asia. Even though we're going there, like in Japan, I was there every every month, essentially, for a couple of years. It was always there. So you enter into the reality, you study the people, you connect with other people, you try to do everything you can. You work with marketers based there. But at the end of the day, you will never have enough understanding of the local culture unless you live there. And ideally, if you are from there as well, or if you have a team mixed of people from there and people that are not, eventually understand other cultures, and so you can have that kind of global with local blending in the team. But again, the model that we have today, that we built over the years, we have 15 design centers around the world and hundreds of designers around the world, is a very powerful one. The local design centers have three main functions. The first one is the one of giving input to the global strategy, so that when we build a global strategy, it could be a new product, could be an existing brand and a global experience strategy, you take in consideration everything your designers tell you from all around the world. For instance, I'm just making it up, you're using in packaging, you're using a white color that makes a lot of sense for the market, for the brand, like Quaker in the US, but eventually the same color is not relevant to the category in Brazil because they want a colorful approach to packaging, or in Japan because the color means eventually something completely different. But this is true, obviously, for products as well, for any kind of thing. So you have first the input from the region in your global strategy. Two, once you have the global strategy, you need to execute the global strategy. And the reality is that even if the global strategy define what the product or the brand is going to do for it, at 95% is in the 5% of local execution that you make the success of the product or the failure of the product. Is literally in how you make whatever strategy you have in mind happen in an authentic way, in a relevant way, in a way that people understand and enjoy. And so even though the modification may seem minimal when you make it happen, the little modification makes all the difference of the world. It's literally the difference between success and failure. The third reason for our local teams is that often there is a specific trend or need or necessity of any kind in a specific region, unique to the region, that drives you to invent something new in the region, to do innovation in the region, that eventually then you can take to the rest of the world. I'm thinking, for instance, about the Middle East and the fact that they don't drink alcohol at night, and so you need non-alcoholic beverages for the nightlife. While in other parts of the world, you have your wine, beer, and alcoholic beverages of any kind. Or regions of the world where premium is very important, where showing off your status is very important. And so you can develop products that are more premium there and then export them as an idea, even before eventually still in development. You're doing it for a region, but then you're like, wow, that's interesting. I'm going to launch it worldwide. So that's the third value. And then I say three, but then there is a three for the local centricity we talk about. Then there is a fourth one that is totally local. That is the idea of developing local brands for the local region.
While you were telling me all this process, which is very valuable and very interesting, I also was thinking like, Mauro, you're like, have a family, writing books, you're involved in Pepsico. I was curious last time, I don't think I asked you, how does your day look like? Like, what is the typical day of Mauro Porcini, like, to also doing this interview? How do you like put all the pieces of the puzzle together? And is it like a crazy schedule, or do you have like some routines that keep you sane, sort of?
It is crazy, and I try to force a balance in this crazy pace. For anybody listening to us right now thinking, well, I may write a book, as an example, keep in mind that writing a book is very time consuming. So you need to consider that you need to sacrifice, if you have a job, you need to sacrifice nights, early mornings, weekends. For me, was COVID helped me so much because I wrote essentially the equivalent of 2/3 books. So I'm done for the next few years, with the upcoming books. But so writing takes a lot, and then promoting takes a lot. I'm talking to you today. I slept 2 hours and a half. I came back with a red eye from San Francisco. I slept a few hours, and then here I was already at 7 a.m. With the first meeting for Pepsico, and then I'm squeezing in a series of podcast interviews and conferences for the promotion of the book. This pace is not sustainable. I mean, what I'm doing in these 2-3 months is impossible to sustain in time. So it's also understanding that from time to time you need to just go. But then it's important to find time to rebalance. So for instance, I can't wait for Christmas to arrive this year. We decided not to travel. Usually we travel all the time. We're like, no, we're going to stay home, enjoy our baby, enjoy New York during Christmas. And so you need discipline. I don't have, just because of the nature of my life, traveling so much and with new things going on every single day, I don't have the routine. I don't have the luxury of saying, well, every morning I'm going to do something at 8 a.m. I just can't. I can't. I remember many, many years ago in Italy, I had a subscription. I don't know how to call it in English, actually, but I would go to theater every Wednesday, and I bought the subscription for the entire year. So I would go, and it was wonderful. It's impossible for me to do something like this today. It's impossible for me to say, well, I'm going to do a guitar course every Thursday at 6 p.m. It cannot happen. So full flexibility, trying to go after your passions, trying every day to adjust. And that's why, for instance, in my case, the role of my assistant is super, super important. And my organization, my discipline in organizing myself by myself is super important as well. If I was less organized, I could do probably 30%, 40% less than what I do. So it's a mix of multiple things, and it's really about adjusting every single day. There is no one day that is similar to the other. Many of my meetings are with the business leaders of PepsiCo to convince them to invest in design even more, or to think about the future of the company in our portfolio. And then other meetings are all with my teams, talking about the overall organization and what we're trying to do, processes, culture. And then many, 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 many meetings are on the projects, reviewing all the different projects and what we're doing. And obviously, because we run thousands of projects in parallel, all around the world, I can't be on top of everything. So I need to rely a lot on my leadership team in understanding what to share with me and what eventually not. And I just need to trust them and empower them. And then I have obviously a series of tools to check anyway what's going on. And if I am interested to be part of a project, I will ask the team to be more involved. There are projects. There are some secret projects that you will see coming out next year that I cannot mention, but where I am like super, super involved, like every step of the way. I'm really there with the team, rolling up on my sleeves to define them. So it's so different. I fly from the future of the world all the way to what is going to happen on the corner of the packaging with the ingredients panel and everything in between.
Crazy. And do you have some like building stones of your day that you kind of like try to, you cannot keep them like at the same time, but I don't know, for example, a certain amount of time you really try to spend with your family, or a certain amount of time that you really have to dedicate to, I don't know, sports, or some routine that actually powers you up also, because I can imagine that if you like, your day, 24 hours wouldn't be enough with all the tasks. So I guess that you have to force yourself.
Yeah. I think it depends on people. Every person has a different strategy. I'm sure that kind of discipline is helpful for certain kind of people. For me, it's not. It would be more of a stress. And so I prefer to adapt, knowing what is important, knowing that I need to carve out time for my family, for instance, or to work out or to do other things. But it's more adapting in a flexible way, week by week. But as I told you, I'm also comfortable in this flexibility, and I'm pretty organized. And so for me, again, it's not a stress to adapt. It would be a stress to have too much rigidity with that routine in my schedule. But if you are a different kind of character and you need that discipline, else you're not going to do things because you're not organized, or because you're not focused on what is important, and you just let go and you are overrun by your day-to-day work activities or other kind of activities that eventually even distract you from your work. And then you need that discipline. Now, I prefer to be flexible, adapt. I love the fact that now we have hybrid working. And so before joining you in this meeting, I had actually another meeting. Before that, I had 20 minutes that if I was in the office, those 20 minutes would have been wasted. Because I'm home, those 20 minutes were totally dedicated to my daughter. It was beautiful for me to see her, and she smiled when she saw me. Hybrid working, I really believe in the need of connecting with your colleagues and co-workers and spend time in the office together. But I really value the fact that now we have also time for our families, and that time doesn't need to be too formal. It's just the time that you cut in commuting in the morning, or is that those 30 minutes between a meeting and the other, where you can protect those connections with the people you love around you if they are home, and or even yourself. Invest in yourself. Maybe you have 1 hour between a meeting and the other. If you're in the office, you don't have time to do much. If you are home, you can work out. You can even work out. People that would never work out, and now they find the time to do it. And that's so important.
Yeah, this is my personal battle in my own industry, because architecture is very conservative, and 99% of the offices don't want to have this kind of workflow that I personally prefer to go to the office, but I'm promoting like being able to be flexible, just because everyone is different, as you said. Well, Mauro, it was a real pleasure having you again in the Creative Insider. It was a pleasure that you had the possibility to squeeze us in the crazy day. And I suggest to everyone, if they want to go more deep in the topics we were talking about today, to go check your book. You can say yourself the title. I think it's available on Amazon also, correct?
Yeah, the human side of innovation, the power of people in love with people. And yes, Amazon or any bookseller online and many non-online. And then if you want to follow some of the topics of the book and have more information and conversations, LinkedIn and Instagram are my two platforms, Mauro Porcini in both. And that's where I usually interact with all the people up there.
Perfect, Mauro. Thank you very much, and have a pleasant rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too. Ciao.